welcome back. My name is Leah and I'm the Red-Headed Witch. So today we are actually going to craft a spell together. Now, I see a lot of spells shared on online spaces, especially social media platforms. I've seen such a beautiful array, which is a great example to show that everyone's practice in spell work is going to be different. So I thought I would go ahead and share a little bit of insight into my personal spell crafting. I wanted to kind of give an example of what my personal process is like and how I decide to craft a particular spell. Now, this process is very fluid. I don't always have the same structure when it comes to spell crafting. A lot of my spell crafting is intuitive and I tend to just follow the thread of intuition. So in some cases it'll be pretty simple, and then in other scenarios, if I feel called to it, it'll be more of a ritualistic approach. I tend to keep my spell crafting pretty fluid in that way just because I don't ever want to pressure myself where there's like resistance. A lot of the times I don't see any sort of manifestation or results with that particular working if that's the case. So over the years, I have learned to just trust my intuition. With that being said, I don't always take into consider the certain days of the week and their correspondence when it comes to spell crafting. You'll see other practitioners do this. For example, Mondays are associated with the moon. So they may decide to include herbs that are corresponding to the moon or intentions that are corresponding of the moon on Monday. Again, in some cases, I feel called to do that, while other times, if I tend to feel like I need to do a cleanse or a banishing, I don't necessarily second guess that. Whenever that happens, I do like to converse with my spirits to kind of get a feel for the particular energy and what kind of level of working I need to do. This kind of ties into, does it need to be kind of like a simple spell, or is it a little bit more of a stubborn energy that I'm working with? That's just kind of talking about like cleansing and protecting. Other areas of spell working, such as in your personal life, your career life, your home life, the times that is more based on my personal intuition, kind of what I'm noticing around our house or our personal lives, in any sort of areas that could need a little bit of assistance. As witches, we know that there are some things that are out of our hands, but then there are some things that are not, and that is where spellcrafting can come into play. That being said, I want to go ahead and share with you a spell that I felt called to do, and I really wanted to kind of capture this moment and share with you all in a very real and honest way. So I already did my daily cleansing ritual, which is pretty simple. It's more of a mundane act. It is sweeping and mopping and vacuuming my house. To me, I think the floors are an important element to the home. I mean, the home in general is pretty important, especially to the witch, but the floors in particular, I feel like really hold on to energy. So when we are coming in and out of the door, if we're bringing something home with us from work, I tend to kind of feel that same energy linger on. Despite us taking off our shoes at the door or anything like that, sometimes they could just follow you through the home. That's why I've incorporated kind of like a daily cleansing ritual. Most of the time it's performed in the morning after I have had my morning coffee, but if I'm feeling that there's extra heavy energy or just negative energy, I will kind of take it to the next step and incorporate some magic, such as including some salt and a prayer. Salt is very accessible and it's very powerful when it comes to cleansing away any sort of energy that you don't want lingering around. So for me personally, I like to sprinkle the salt around the home along with a prayer. Then I will sweep the home from the back to the front, as well as vacuuming from the back to the front. And I just make sure that I dispose all of that into the trash and remove the trash right away. When it comes to mopping, I have a specific floor wash that I like to use. So then after I sweep and vacuum, I will go ahead and move forward to mopping. Again, starting from the back of the home to the front. Now that's just to share a little bit of my personal spell workings and how I incorporate a lot of magic into the mundane tasks, especially to start my day. Now let's get to the spell that I have been thinking about today. I want to start off with how I kind of go about structuring a spell. And like I said, it tends to be very fluid. Sometimes I feel called to use a book that references spells into it, such as the Book of Spells by Ella Harrison, or even Traditional Witchcraft by Gemma Gary. Some of these books, just to name just a few, incorporate some of their own workings. And so sometimes I will use them as inspiration for my own. A lot of the times I won't have every single ingredient that's listed, so I will have to kind of use what I have on hand. But a lot of the times I will get a sense to use particular items that I have on hand. And a lot of the times when I go to look at their correspondences or I sit with them, I feel a lot of the times that it correlates to what I feel intuitively that our home and our family and our personal lives could use. So in this case, I felt called to create a home home charm in the form of like a flower bundle. Now this can be like a bouquet that you set into your living room space or at your altar. It just entirely depends on what you feel called to do and what the purpose of the bouquet charm is for. But for me, I felt really called to create this particular bundle charm for the home to be hung at our door. I think that the entrance of our home is a really important space because, like I said, it is often where we kind of cross in between like our lives. For example, a lot of the times we were leaving our home to go to work or to meet friends and family members or to just socialize with other people, and therefore we're around a lot of different energies throughout the day. So then when we are coming home, a lot of the times we can bring that energy in. So I felt really called to create some sort of charm to kind of protect any sort of outside energy that might be creating some sort of like stagnancy or just like heavy energy inside our home. So when I started to kind of think through this charm, and the way that this even came forth to me was as I was cleansing the home. And sometimes that will happen when I'm in the middle of doing another spell. Sometimes I will feel called to do something in tandem with it or kind of like another layer to it. And I have learned over the years to just not question it, to just move forward. So for this particular spell, we are doing a home protection charm. Now this charm can be adapted depending on what you have readily available to you, but I'm just gonna kind of share with you what I personally have, why I'm using it, and how I put together my spell. So the first item that I have on hand is this red thread. Red thread is something that I have on hand a lot of the times for spell workings, but also for my embroidery, which a lot of the times I will incorporate magic into because knot magic and cord magic are a really great way to kind of blend in the magic with mundane, and knot magic is a really powerful way and was practiced in a lot of different traditions and in a lot of different ways. Red thread in particular is associated with protection, so it's a great tool to have on hand if you are wanting to do any sort of protection workings. The next item that I have on hand is this brass bell. Bells are a really great way to sound cleanse. It was said to believe that the sound cleansing of the bells would deter any sort of evil spirits from entering your home. It was also called witch bells. So witch bells are also said to place at the threshold of your home to essentially cleanse away and to scare off any sort of negative energy or witches. Next on the list, I have 2 hagstones that I intend to use that I actually had gathered from my old home state of North Carolina. So I felt really called to use both of them. I actually haven't used either one of these in any sort of spell working. So with this particular home charm, I was like, I think it is time to use them. Hagstones have a lot of folklore to them, mainly because hagstones are naturally created. The hole in them is naturally created by the ocean. So it was believed that individuals were able to kind of see into the other world through this hole of the hagstone. And because of this, it was believed to have magical properties to protect the individual. So sometimes individuals would carry them in their pockets or in their charm bags, or they would simply look through the hole for spirit work, to look into the other world, as well as for divination. So these are the magical elements to my home protection charm, but I also want to keep in mind the upcoming season. I tend to look to nature when it comes to inspiration of how I like to craft my spells. And so as someone who also appreciates, design, and I do personally like to craft something that is beautiful, especially if it's like a charm for my home, because I don't want it to be a very obvious magical charm in case like visitors are coming by or maintenance comes by or something like that, and it's a little bit, what is this? So I kind of like to keep my protection charms a little bit more nonchalant and hidden. And so a lot of the times by doing that, I will incorporate some other elements to make it more of a decoration as much as it is a magical charm. Now, with that being said, we do have the upcoming Harvest Festival Lunasa on August 1st. And During this time of year, it is the beginning of the harvest season. So we start to think about, what is it that we're harvesting, such as wheat. A lot of folk traditions incorporate wheat as an ingredient into like their kitchen witchery or into other crafts. This is a reminder of the abundance and a lot of gratitude that we are experiencing towards the end of the year. Right before the autumnal equinox, which is when it is equal day and night, and then the days start to get a lot shorter and the nights are a lot longer. So with this in mind, I actually have some dried florals that I think correspond really well to this type of energy and abundance. And so I wanted to create essentially like a dried floral bundle with these magical elements as well. So now that I have crafted this home protection charm with the dried floral inspired by the upcoming Harvest Festival, as well as the brass bell, and I actually decided to just use one of the hagstones and then the red thread. So one of the ways that I personally like to enchant my charms is I will use an incantation. I think words are incredibly powerful. It is one of the ways that I feel I can do my best in terms of energetically enchanting my charm with the desired will and intent. So there's a few ways that I go about this, but today I'm going to share with you how I enchant this home protection charm. In terms of the incantation that I will say, sometimes I will write my own, and other times I will use a book. There are two books that I recommend in terms of finding some inspiration, and one of them is The Wicked Shall Decay, Charm Spells and Witchcraft of Old Britain. This has a plethora of great charms, just spoken word charms, or even some other crafted charms that you can use for protection, for cleansing, just so much opportunity here. Then there's also The Witch's Art of Incantation, Spoken Charms, Spells, and Curses in Folk Witchcraft by Roger J. Horn. Another great book for inspiration when it comes to incantation. So whether I write it myself or I use one of these, I always use my cauldron or a fire-safe proof container. But in this case, I have a cauldron and I don't have any charcoal discs, so I actually use like this thing. The word has left my mind. I'm using this thing. And so I will put incense, or I will put resin and other like herbs in it, and I will light a candle underneath. And just kind of making sure that I'm keeping an eye on this because it burns a little bit like funny, but just to make sure that it's not gonna like catch fire or cause any harm. That's what I will use when I don't have any charcoal discs.